that's the way you got to look at it. Even though rates are going up, you're better off in a structure like this than you would be out hoping for good things to happen to you in the standard market right now.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast, where we take a look at what is going on in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines to those that are driving those changes. As always, I'm Donnie, Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me is the newest, by the way, Dan, I just read in the news that Sean Hannity followed your lead. He's leaving New York, and he's going to Florida. By the way, for our listeners, Dan is currently in Florida, and can I call you a Florida resident? Is that
I am definitely a Florida. I'm definitely a Florida resident.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the newly Florida resident, Mr. Dan Gordon. Dan, say good morning. Introduce our topic, our guest, as well as our sponsors.
Good morning, and just for the record, I've been a Florida resident for well over a year now. So, Dan Gordon, PCO Bookkeepers, PCO M&A specialists. We specialize in accounting for the pest and lawn industry, as well as exit planning services. And you may have heard the news, and we do this each and every episode, and it's really actually getting quite exciting because we've got, David is basically telling me, okay, we got to start another group. So we start, I think we're up to 4 or 5 of them. But you may have heard the news that we're doing peer groups with folks who are like-minded within the industry. And it's actually terrific. If you want to find out more about what a peer group is, go to episode 136. We're doing it with David Billingsley, who is a industry veteran, and we love working with him. And also, please consider supporting our sponsors for those who are interested in marketing. It's Coal March by WorkWave, and we will be at the WorkWave, both Donnie and I will be at the WorkWave conference next week, which is always a blast. I will be doing 3 presentations, which I'm pretty excited about, but it's always just a lot of learning, and it's a big party, and it's a lot of fun. And the second sponsor, or actually the first sponsor today, is PestSure. And with us, our guest today is Todd Burke from PestSure. And we are very excited to speak with him because, the insurance markets, everybody's very concerned about what's going on with them. So PestSure is an insurance provider in the pest control industry, and they're obviously one of our sponsors. We've covered details about PestSure in episode 86 and how a captive works. That's a captive. Maybe Todd can summarize that. And we spoke to PestSure's director of safety, Linda, in episode 138. And so if you're interested, you can go back to those episodes. That's episode 86 and 138. And I got all that out, and I don't think I screwed anything up. And so we are ready to roll.
Hang on.
Hey, Todd, welcome. I'm not listening. I
think you're all right.
I have one thing I have to say, and then after that, we're going to bring Todd on, which is I have to apologize to our audience because Dan just went on about how we're going to be there. And when this episode airs, the WorkWave conference will be over. So hopefully.
Oh, yeah. So we are recording this on Thursday, January 4th.
Yes. But that's not to take away from the excitement of
yes,
us.
We're very excited from having been there. Didn't you have a great time, Donnie? Wasn't it awesome?
I did. And the one thing I will add is, on this podcast, I'm a customer PestSure. I've been a customer PestSure for many, many years. I very much believe in their program. And I've talked about this in previous episodes. I think it's really important that, as a business owner, you align yourself with partners who really understand what's going on in your business and especially insurance. It's not something that I like to, I don't think insurance is one of those things where you should be cutting costs because it's when you need it, it's a little too late. And so I would just say that, Todd, and by the way, I didn't talk to Todd about this before we started the episode, but certainly I'm a huge fan, right? I've been on the PestSure program for many, many years. I plan on staying there. Really like the program that you guys have. I'm a huge fan. And with that, Todd,
By the way, we have lots and lots of clients on the program as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
anyway,
Thank
are you
you.
ready to introduce Todd? Todd, do you want to join or just?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Thank you
yeah.
guys. I appreciate that. It's nice to be back, and Happy New Year, everybody.
To you too.
Same to you. Same to you.
So give us I know that we talked about going to episode 86, but a elevator pitch. What is PestSure? What makes it different than traditional insurance, and how does it work?
Great. Thank you very much. So we're going into our 44th year in business as a captive. And basically, captive is an alternative risk option for folks to form their own insurance company. And that's what in 1980, it was formed due to the chemical exposure in the industry where people couldn't get insurance. And so about 20 pest control companies came together and formed their own company to take themselves out of the standard market, the insurance cycles, the swings. And we'll get into that in a little bit here with what the auto market's doing, and how punitive that's been for so many folks to be, just flopping in the wind, waiting to see what happens with their auto rates. But so it's an opportunity to have predictability and stable and rates, and allow you to rest peacefully, basically, and know that you're going to have the right coverage when you need it, and not have to worry about the insurance. It's when you think of PestSure, think of us as we're a full service insurance team. We're all based in Dallas, except for one person that is in Florida, and we have we have loss prevention dedicated. We have our own claims team. We have everything as you would expect for a full insurance company to have. And we do the underwriting. We have control. That's the biggest thing, I guess I should say, is within the captive structure, is you get control over pricing, you get control over claims, where you don't have that in the standard market. And we become, over the last 44 years, an industry resource, and the risk has shifted from the general liability exposure to an auto exposure. We have about 17,000 vehicles insured. We have about 800 million in payroll and about 2.1 billion dollars in revenue if you roll everybody up. So we're a significant player in the market, and again, this is all we do every day, and it's been a very, very good decision for so many PMPs.
But to be clear, there's the risk is spread to another insurance company, so it's not 20 guys getting together, and when that money's depleted, we're gone. So just
no.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So we write for the captive. We handle all lines of coverage, but for the captive lines are general liability, auto liability, and workers' compensation. And then we have a separate program for property, separate one for umbrella. But for the three captive lines, we're running about $40 million a year in premium right now through the captive. Plus all the other ones, we're probably touching about $55 or $60 million of premium.
Got you. And I, just real quick for our listeners, can we talk a little bit through the benefits of it being structured that way versus, say, going to another insurer? Because I think the point that you made, that what happened in 1980 or whenever you guys got started, like the whole reason that the captive got started, I think it's important for our listeners to understand that, right? It absolutely is a scenario where you could not get insurance for, like, you can't buy it on the market. Like, can you just talk through why this is important, and why it's a benefit to someone to go into the PestSure program versus, and not to say that on the open market they can't get a good insurance, but for me personally, one of the reasons that I am a huge fan of PestSure is that it was built for our industry, and it was built for, it was built with people in mind that knows our industry very, very well.
Yeah, so that's right. I mean, we're there's and not saying about competition or what, but there's people that are out there that have PestSure have pest control programs, but there's no one out there that has their own insurance company. that operates as an insurance company, that makes the decisions for the group, and knows the industry, knows specifically about termite claims. We've seen everything. We know how it all works. Instead of the standard market where someone says we want to write pest control companies, and then you have adjusters when a claim happens that they don't know what Centricon is. They don't know really how to properly handle those types of situations where we do. I guess unfortunately we've seen it all. So, but no, and so and they get access to they get access to loss prevention. I mean, when someone becomes a part of PestSure, we have a members only area of a website. They go in. We've got all kinds of things to help you with your safety and loss control efforts. We have, like I said, dedicated teams. The certificates sound like something everyone should be able to do, but one of the challenges a lot of PMPs have are, particularly on commercial work, of getting the certificate language correct, dealing with compliance folks and all that. We have 2 dedicated people that just help with that. We issue 130,000 certificates a year. There's just a lot of little things. It's hard to articulate until you actually experience it in a lot of ways, that people have come to really appreciate about the program. And one thing I think is really important to point out here is, unlike a standard market, we get to know these folks. We know your business. We know your operation and your culture. And you might have a bad loss year. You might have a really bad thing happen. And unlike a standard market, we're not going to kick you to the curb. I mean, have we had to non-renew people before? Very rarely. But that's because, for other reasons, they're not changing the behavior that created those situations. But if someone has a bad claim, we're not going to go and say, well, sorry, your rate was X and now it's Y, and try to triple your rates or just non-renew you altogether the first year or anything like that. Even the year 3, 4, 5, we get a history together, and we're able to humanize this whole underwriting process, and we're not having to rely on somebody that it's some computer model somewhere that tells you what you're going to be paying for your insurance.
One thing you mentioned, I think it's really important, worth repeating here, is the resource with like Linda and her team, and the ability to implement safety at your company and have her come out and help, right? I mean, that has been, we've used that, and I'm giving a personal testimonial here, but it was great, right? I mean, I think it's like you said, kind of your off-the-shelf insurance company. They're not going to have that kind of depth, and certainly not those kind of resources. So, I mean, I was going to say, if you're on the program and you haven't used that, or if you haven't looked at that, it absolutely is something that you should, because it's there, right? It's all part of the program.
I mean, one of the things that we invest heavily in every year is our loss prevention meeting. We had it in Memphis this past September. We have it every fall. It's become, I mean, Linda does an amazing job and on the agenda, and I hear about it throughout the year. People look forward to it. It's a day and a half of breakout sessions. We have an excellent agenda that's very pertinent and timely to the issues that PMPs are facing. And it's a very powerful day and a half, where one of the neat things about PestSure too is, and the industry, as you guys know, how willing people are to share best practices. And that's certainly alive and well in our group. And as a matter of fact, many of our presenters are actual insurers, and so they help, and they want to educate the group, and it's been very powerful.
Well, I sent 2 people to that conference, and they had a great time. But I told them, I'm like, you got to bring back something useful, which they did. But they have nothing but accolades to say for the conference. So I agree with you on that.
So, just from a general to a specific, tell us about, I know I hear rumblings about what's going on in insurance, but how do you think that we're doing from an insurance perspective versus other industries versus the past? I mean, are you optimistic, pessimistic? What do you think 2024 is going to bring us?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we get a look. As I mentioned, we get about a little over $2 billion of revenue rolled up, and we just completed a lot of 1/1 renewals, and we have renewals throughout the year. But the industry, first of all, the industry is doing well. I mean,
yeah, we're seeing it too.
from my chair, and I'm sure I mean, Dan, you see a lot too, but I'm just looking at projected revenues year over year. I'm seeing 5 to 7% average, maybe a little more depending on the size company, but all in another growth year is projected based on what the revenues show. And that's held true, fortunately, for many years. And so I think that's a positive sign. But as far as your question, how is the industry doing? Well, the general liability side for PMPs is performing well. They're like with our book, and I'll just talk about PestSure. I mean, we have a couple of really bad claims a year where we buy a few houses, termite claims or whatever, but the most profitable line of coverage we have is general liability. It always has been. It's ironic because that's why the captives was started in 1980, that was going to be a big money loser. And there's more markets out there that want to write general liability because of that. They know that they can make money doing it. I'll save the auto for last. Workers' comp. The one thing I mentioned, we do the underwriting. Well, workers' comp is set by the state, so we don't do the underwriting on that. But the rates to benefit PMPs are historic lows. I mean, it's interesting, the swings in the market, like every 7-8 years, the rates will go up and down. But right now, everyone is enjoying low rates for the various class codes on your payroll. So work comp rates are down, and I'm knocking on wood, but the work comp has performed well. One thing I'll mention is, I think one of the things when I've been doing involved with PestSure now for 14 years. I can't believe that, but when I first started, work comp was a huge problem. I mean, it was bad, and one of the things is that we implemented was a dedicated adjuster team for the claims, like we have with liability. So when you come to PestSure, you're assigned an adjuster. You get to know them, they get to know you. You pick up the phone, you talk to a human being, and you work through your claims together. But we put together a dedicated workers' comp team, and we hired a nurse case manager to help us lower the medical expenses, challenging the doctor's opinions on whether someone needs surgery or not, and really getting into the file and getting their hands dirty on it. And so that's helped a lot with our performance in workers' comp. I think we're probably performing better on comp than the industry than outside standard market. That would be my guess.
Because of the meetings and resources, or
in the hands-on approach we have, and we're the dedication we have to it, the investment we've made on a day-to-day basis of fighting these claims, and so I think that's helped us a lot. And the biggest challenge, and I don't want to start a depressing topic for 2024, but it's not going away. I mean, is the auto market, the legal environment that we're facing is scary. I mean, it is, and I can tell you about right when it was when I started really getting concerned about the auto and the environment was 2015 or 16. I mean, something I don't know what it wasn't like a law changed or something, but it just seemed like there was a lot more activity on the larger settlements, even more plaintiff attorneys involved, and I think also because of our exposure, our growth. I mean, our number of insured vehicles went up too, but over that time frame. But we are again not trying to be the standard market. The standard market. I've heard people paying up to $10,000 a vehicle in some markets.
Yikes!
Yeah, I've heard several markets where people are paying $5,000. Some of those folks are going to have some pretty poor loss history, but just to give you an idea, there are very, very, very few auto markets that want to write commercial auto fleets of any kind, and how we're doing compared to another service industry. I've asked our actuary that. They do the actuary projections for several fleet-driven businesses, and she says for years we've done just a little bit better than the average, but the last few years that's probably not been the case. It depends on the year, but we're not performing really worse. It's just everybody that's driving a company vehicle is in a tough spot, no matter what the industry is. And so if you go out there and say, look, I want options on my auto, and you go to whoever to get you options, it's the places they can go are going to be surplus lines, maybe non-admitted carriers. We're Old Republic and we're admitted A+ carrier, which is important, but
what does admitted mean?
Basically, an admitted carrier is if something were to happen to PestSure, you're guaranteed to get your claim paid. This is just an easy way to explain it. A non-admitted carrier is that may not happen, right? I mean, the last I saw somebody had a competitor quote like an A- non-admitted paper. You just never know. Your preference is to have an admitted paper on all your policies. But I'm not saying non-admitted carriers aren't legitimate or good enough, but I'd prefer to on an admitted paper if I were buying insurance.
I like guarantees when it comes to insurance. I'll just say that.
Yeah. And so the challenge we've had, and I really don't see an end in sight for it, or we've had to do it too. But what I want to get my point across here is that we've increased rates the last many years. I mean, since 2015, 16, with 5 to 20 to 25% or whatever we needed to do, we're just trying to get enough premium to pay our claims for the auto, and it's very difficult to underwrite. It's super difficult to underwrite. When you got a claim that spins out of control, someone's paying $150,000 for their auto insurance, and they get something that should have settled for $200,000. Now it's dragging on, and people want $5 million, and it just how do you get enough premium to cover those losses? And so collectively, as a book, as a program, we're trying to accomplish that, and think we're getting right when we think we're getting close, then we get hammered with more losses, and it's a never-ending process for us. But
Todd, I think it was you that talked to me about our last episode was about private equity and some of the good and rolling up, but some of these private equity companies are creating these pools of legal, so they'll support somebody through a claims process that they might settle, but they can't keep it going for a while. And can you describe some of that? Are you subject to any of that?
Oh yeah, I mean that's great. Thanks for bringing it up. I mean, it makes my stomach hurt talking about the auto environment. It really does. It just heats me up. And I know several of our insureds. We've had so many conversations about what's going on, and then one of them is the private equity, right? I mean, they've stepped in and they're doing putting money up to these plaintiff attorneys and letting them keep these cases alive for as long as they can and push them out and go for the big settlements, and they're funding them. I mean, that's a really difficult situation to be in.
It's crazy.
I mean, and guess what? They're making a ton of money.
Oh, sure they are. Yeah.
And you know the other coverage is the umbrella, and it goes hand in hand with the auto because the umbrella carriers are seeing huge claims. We had one last year settle, and it was probably should have been a big number because there were some fatalities involved, but $9 million, that was well into the umbrella layer. And we have a partner that we've had for a long time with AXA XL is our kind of our program go-to for the umbrella market. And we've been able to, even though most of our insurers don't feel like they're getting a good deal on their umbrella, it's better than what it could have been. And we can put up more limits than most people can. And so, but overall over a five-year period, PestSure has performed well in the umbrella. I mean, if you add up all the premium and the paid losses, we're looking pretty good on the umbrella. The last couple of years have been pretty rough, but that's another area where it's difficult to go get those options. But I still haven't made my point, I don't think, about the when we're turning the dial up and raising rates, we're not doing it with the standard market mindset. We're doing it with we're all in the same boat together. We're a captive. You're part of the captive, the PestSure family. Basically, we're trying to ease into these increases and give you some predictability, and not just come in and say, "Well, you want in, we got to double your rate." I mean, just 1 year overnight, boom. And what I'd say to people, I think one of the questions, the prep questions that I read was that, what do you want? What should you be telling people? I mean, what to expect in 2024? And I think that, whoever you're with, make sure you're speaking to your agent or broker about this, and you should be anyway, but at least 6 months. If your renewal's in August, I'd schedule a call this month just to get some insight on what they're telling you and what the game plan is, because there's not anybody out there that has a pest control company insured that's their agent or broker that's not nervous about the auto renewal. There's not one. I mean, there might be a few. There might be a few. And guess what? Every now and then you'll run into a deal where a smaller company, might have whatever. They started off with 3 or 4 or 5 vehicles, and then they were somebody that was local, and like they were with State Farm or something, and they haven't woken up yet. They've grown up to be a 20 vehicle company, and they still have a really good rate. And I just say, I see it, and someone might be paying well below market rate, and I'll just say, keep the gift under the tree as long as you can, because it's, don't mess with it. But very, very rarely do you run into that type of situation. But if you have losses, if you've had a loss, I don't care if there's any activity, standard markets are going to try to get a significant increase from you, or non-renew it. They don't care. They'll non-renew it. And we're trying to stay in the game and do the right thing, but also try to get enough rate to make it a good business decision.
So I have a couple of questions from what you were just saying there. So is what you're saying is that a lot of the litigation is what's driving the cost up on the auto side? Is that, I was thinking about, there's a thing that's happening in Florida now, which, by the way, I'm no insurance expert here, but there's in the news about all these insurers that are leaving Florida because of fraud, and like basically and now they're talking about litigation to try to like curb some of that. Like, is that what's driving the pricing in that market? And if so, what is there to do other than just pay it? I don't know that. Is there any way of? Obviously there's your standard mitigation stuff, which is safety training. I don't want to make light of any of that, but is there a way to curb it? I guess is my question. Is that what's driving it? And if it is, then is there anything that can be done?
Well, the only thing that's really going to change this is tort reform. But in Florida is actually, when was this? It seems like about a year ago, where they changed the law where if a plaintiff attorney they changed it to where if a plaintiff attorney directed care, in other words, to the claimant, like they said, go to that doctor. You're going to go to my golf buddy back surgeon and get cut on unnecessarily, and you're going to go do this and do that. So they do this. So you have the claim. They're all wired with their doctor friends, and they're all on the same. They're all trying to stick it to the insurance companies. So they'll get somebody to go have surgeries, ring up medical bills, get the number up where the settlement's going to be higher, and all that. Well, the law changed, fortunately, and it's going to end up helping us in Florida, where now you have to disclose. The plaintiff attorney has to disclose whether or not they directed care or not. That's a big step, right? That's going to help. But funny thing is that the week before that law changed, we got 35 lawsuits in our claim department because all these guys knew it, right? Mm. So, I don't know the exact number, but it was like more than several dozen claims. But sure. No, Donnie, that's driving it, and that's what makes it so scary. Not to pick on Florida, but we have a lot of exposure there. But it's not just it's Southeast. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. But it's Southeast and Texas, Georgia, Florida, North and South Carolina. You can't really isolate it to one area. We've had to, we want people in the captive to take higher deductibles, So, our deductibles range from $2,500 to $250,000 on auto and general liability, to help. And our mission in life is to help PMPs lower their cost of risk. That's at the end of the day. You're in this program. We don't want you to buy more insurance. We want you to buy less insurance and pay less over the long haul. And those that can, over a 5-year period, being in the captive, particularly during this environment we're in, have saved a lot of money over the long haul. And so I think that's a good thing. But that's the way you got to look at it. Even though rates are going up, you're better off in a structure like this than you would be out hoping for good things to happen to you in the standard market right now.
I would just add to our listeners, and I'm not, by the way, this is not advice. I'm just going to tell you what I do. But I will say on the auto side, our philosophy is if it's under 10K, we just take care of it. We try to avoid an auto claim. Especially if it's like single, obviously if there's some other people involved in those types of things, then we got to do it. But if and the reason is because we don't want to make the claim, right? We don't want to.
You never know where somebody's going to come out and say, geez, oh, my back, my leg, So
that's true. Again, I'm not giving advice.
Don't give that kind of advice. But I do have a question. If you raise the deductible, then you're kind of self-insuring. Do you put a pool of money together to leave, I could see going from 500 to 1,000 or 1,000 to 2,500, but you were talking hundreds of thousands in deductible, and I imagine that's not for the mom and pop pest control. That's for
We're
some of
not.
the big guys that you work
Yeah.
with.
Right.
But what are there rules with respect to that? Like, because if I finance a vehicle, they're going to require certain minimums. So then I can't finance my vehicles if I drive up my minimum or my deductibles like that. What's the recommendation on self-insuring a piece of it, like you're saying?
Well, let me maybe you're alluding to. Let me just I'm talking about this auto liability
Mm-hmm.
premium, and then there's what we call APD, auto physical damage. So the comp and collision. So when you have an accident to fix the vehicle or fix another vehicle, so those are separate. If I told you we have 17,000 vehicles insured for auto liability, okay. Over the years, I've tried to show our insureds where it makes sense not to fully insure the vehicle. Someone might be paying 50 grand a year or something to insure all these vehicles, full coverage. Well, then you run the numbers on it and they don't have many claims and they're just throwing money away. So just self-insure the auto physical damage piece of it and buy the liability. But I think, Dan, what you're alluding to is these lease companies or whoever,
Right.
they want you to have full coverage on the vehicle, and so then that's why a lot of people keep it. Out of the 17,000 vehicles, we only have full coverage on only about 3,000.
Oh, really? Wow.
To give you an idea, I mean that's how many people are self-insuring their APD.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But there are also there's also some larger companies mixed in there. So, but even some smaller operations. But when the somebody's got 20, 30 vehicles, 40, whatever, a lot of them are just, are required to do it. And they have to do it.
Right.
So, but I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you
But
did. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So you said, what can we do about it? I want to throw this out there. I mean, and I know hiring people's one of the number one most difficult things to find good talent. You're going to hear it, that conversation throughout the year. It continues. But the hiring, when you talk about all this loss prevention, talk about going to all these conferences and all the resources, in my opinion, hiring practices is number one. That's where it starts. Obviously, with a good company culture and everything else, that's a given. But I'm talking about the hiring practices and what we've seen. And we did some kind of statistics on a couple of different of our insureds where there had been some really bad claims. Just a string of bad claims. What is going on? What can we draw any conclusions here? And the conclusion and the answer is yes. And that is novice drivers. And novice drivers are defined, as we define, as Linda Midyett, our loss prevention director, defines as 5 years or less behind the wheel. Okay, so a lot of these folks aren't starting to drive at 16 anymore or whatever. They're later in life. They're don't get their license till 21, and somebody hires them. They're 22. They've been behind the wheel 2 years, and boom, there you go. I mean, yeah. It is sort of alarming how the large percentage of those large claims are novice drivers, and that's a fact. I mean, that is a specific to PestSure, but I guarantee you across the industry,
right,
that if you ask a lot of these owners who had the accident, how long they've been with you, how long they've been driving, they're going to be a novice driver. So, well, then you go, well, hey, Todd, we can't, we got to hire people. We can't, but I'm not saying don't be careful when you hire novice drivers, I guess is my message, and try not to. I mean, if you can avoid hiring somebody that doesn't have much driving experience, that's a pretty obvious, comment, but that we've seen it, and it's causing problems. And so
That's such a good point that you're making, because it is true. I mean, people, I have teens now, and I'm shocked that I'm absolutely shocked. Like when I turned 16 that morning,
No.
8 a.m.
Oh, everybody on their birthday.
I was there. Like, let's
Same,
go.
yeah.
Like that was my ticket to freedom, and buddy, I couldn't get it soon enough. And my kids now, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just different,
Yeah.
right? And so it's, you that's such a good point. I mean,
And yeah. I mean, I burned through 2 tanks of gas the day I got when I was 16. I was ready to go. Yeah.
But there is something interesting that you brought up. So being this Florida resident coming from New Jersey, I have a 21-year-old, and he didn't do anything, but his insurance tripled going from New Jersey to Florida. And New Jersey's not a cheap state. So
Right.
yeah.
We're seeing it, and then so and we're careful where we're not just going out there trying to write every pest control company we can get our hands on. We want good partners. We want people that see the value in a long-term partnership with, and having the predictability, and at some point you get sick and tired of every year some guy coming in and saying, there's no real rhyme or reason, but here you go, here are your numbers. And, we want it to be insurance no one likes to talk about. We should have started with that, but we try to make it easy, and really as pain-free as possible, if it can be that way. And to give you, we open the curtain and show you everything behind the curtain, and we want to, that's the way we operate. And everybody needs to understand that, even though like you mentioned the rate going from New Jersey to Florida, I mean, insurance umbrellas going up for they don't have a loss. They didn't have a loss. And they're just, you're just in the market conditions that are just unfavorable, and you got to pay the price. Like homeowners, like I couldn't believe how much my homeowner's bill went up. I didn't do anything. I didn't have a claim. That's, doubled in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, so this is a pretty depressing conversation, but you have a terrific company. And so I just want to make sure that people understand this is not a PestSure problem. This is an insurance industry problem, or, I guess if people wanted to, test the waters with you guys, what's the best way? Do they go through their broker? Do they go to you direct? How would I start doing business with PestSure?
Yeah. No, thanks for saying that. It is not isolated to PestSure. This is I'm just trying to give you kind of the U.S. perspective of what's going on in the insurance market. It's crazy. But no, either way, we want to make it easy. If they're working with someone they like to work with, just have their agent or send an email and make an email introduction, or give us a call. Or if you want to come direct to us, they can. It doesn't cost them more either way to do it. And we're happy to accommodate whatever relationship they want to form.
So if you have an agent or broker who's your brother-in-law or good friend or whatever, go through them and they'll get to
that's
you.
all good.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Or direct, and we can, if we figure out we can do all the service, which 99% of the co-broker accounts that we work with, we do all the service, and the local agent that might still be involved is there to kind of validate what we're all doing and be the kind of quarterback of the relationship. So we don't want to disrupt any relationships at all.
Yeah. Well, Todd, listen, it has been fantastic having you on. I learned a lot, and I knew auto was obviously escalating, and I see it here at Triangle and everyone I talk to. It's obviously a big concern. So I appreciate. I wasn't anticipating this episode to turn into the auto episode, but certainly it's such a big topic.
Yeah, it's a huge topic.
Right.
Well, Yeah, and I'm sorry for kicking off the new year on such a depressing topic.
Not at
Maybe,
all.
but no, I mean, but you have to be. I mean, everyone's got to be eyes wide open on it. It's not going away.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, with that, Todd, thanks again. We will certainly have you on again, and again for all of our listeners, any resources, anything we talked about, we're going to put a link up on PMPindustryinsider.com. Just take a look under show notes. We will absolutely link PestSure's website off of that for the show notes. And like Todd said, if there's something you're interested in, everyone's feeling the pressure. I would certainly highly recommend, and we don't, for us. I use their services. I would highly recommend it. At least give them a call, figure out what's going on, and shop it. Because again, I think insurance is a place where you really need to pay attention. For me, I'm very, very big picture. That's one I do dial in on. Well, with that, we will see you all next time. We always appreciate any positive reviews, any accolades, and of course, all the complaints and any negatives can all go to Dan. So with that, we're going to sign off. We'll see you all next time. See ya.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.